Okay guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be filming a video with Laura. This is Laura.
Hello, hi.
I think if you guys watched my videos last summer, you might remember her because we filmed a
yeah,
food video together.
Yeah. That was so fun.
I really wanted to sit down with Laura and talk about modeling for a little bit, but I also mainly wanted to talk about some nutrition related things. Okay, so before we get into the nutrition related stuff and all the other questions, you were modeling for a while and that's how we met.
Yes.
So I kind of want to hear about your journey, like how you got started and how you eventually became into the world that you're in now.
Yeah. Okay, so I started modeling when I was 18. So that's actually a little bit later than most models. I don't know, like you started a lot earlier, and most of my friends started quite young as well. So I was in Ottawa, that's where I'm from, and I actually got scouted while I was working retail by a photographer, and he linked me up with Wilhelmina, Vancouver at the time. I don't even think they're called that anymore. So I got connected with my mother agent, and she really wanted me to do shows and like travel, which was very exciting, and I was very flattered because I never really thought I would model. Like I had people come up to me and like say, oh, you should model like because you're tall. But I definitely didn't have the confidence to like go up to an agency myself. So it's pretty cool that I was scouted because I definitely would not have been here if I wasn't. So then I ended up traveling a lot. I went to South Korea first, and then I went to Paris and did like the whole Fashion Week thing, which was really exciting. Lots of ups and downs, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah, it's so fun and like so hard at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And I was a very like kind of shy person. I was really like a homebody, so all the traveling was really a lot for me, but I'm really grateful for it because it really brought me out of my shell and like made me push myself a little bit more. My parents actually, they like encouraged me to go on the trip. Like I didn't really want to because I was like, no, I kind of like being at home, like it's very comfortable, I like it here. And they're like, Laura, you should do this, like this is a good opportunity. I'm like, okay.
They knew you really well.
I know, they did. They're like, she needs this push. So yeah, I'm super grateful that they did because I got to meet so many people. I got to meet you, like got to travel the world. Now I have friends from all over, which is amazing. But yeah, and then I ended up working a lot in New York. So I kind of started booking more consistent jobs like e-com. So I eventually got an apartment in New York, which was insane to me because I always kind of thought of modeling as something temporary. I didn't really think it would last for me. I was very skeptical in myself, and I should have believed in myself a little bit more.
How many years were you living and working in New York before you realized that you wanted to do more?
While I was modeling, I was always kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do after, and I think a lot of models go through something similar.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to do something else outside of modeling. I was just having trouble figuring out what exactly that was. And modeling definitely, I will say, really impacted my relationship with food. So when I started modeling, I started eating like very healthy because I was also in the runway space, which, as you know, like it's very, very strict, especially when I started like 9 years ago. I think it's gotten a little bit better now, but at the time it was really tough, and I put a lot of pressure on myself when I definitely like didn't always do it in a healthy way. It took a lot of time for me to kind of heal from that, and then once I started healing from that and working on my relationship with food, I realized that it was very hard for me to like separate that when I was modeling. Like I still like, it definitely got better, and I set boundaries with my agency, and I said, look, like this is the weight that I'm healthy at, like kind of like take it or leave it. And they were kind of okay with it, but it was still tough because I still needed to book jobs, you know?
So you were trying to find balance in your diet and do modeling at the same time, and just realized that you couldn't really fulfill that.
Yeah, I mean, well, I actually am still modeling now, but I ended up switching agencies. So I like at one point I kind of got fed up with modeling in the industry, and I was like, I think I want to quit. I think I'm ready to like do something else. But then I thought, why not give it another chance with a different agency, because my agency in New York was very high fashion. Yeah. And I had been with them for so long. So
it's very cutthroat at that level too, you know? So.
Exactly, yeah. So I figured, why not give it another try with like another agency? So I signed with State, And they're really great. Like, they're very accepting, very like, if your measurements change, it's okay, just let us know. Like, we have clients for every body type, which was just so comforting to hear.
Very refreshing.
Very refreshing. And that's just like all I could handle at the time. So since signing with them, like, my relationship with food has gotten so much better. And I just was much happier, and I felt like I could do it at the same time. Like, I enjoyed it a little bit more. I was doing more commercial jobs, like bridal and stuff, which I actually enjoy a lot more. So so it's still, I'm still modeling now. It's still manageable, but now that I have this nutrition and I kind of found my other passion, the more I realize that I just love it so much more than modeling, and I'm kind of ready to move on.
Was your experience with food what sparked your interest into becoming a holistic nutritionist and exploring that field?
Yeah, definitely. So modeling got me into healthy eating, which I'm actually so grateful for, because I was not healthy before I started modeling. I was kind of that girl who could like eat whatever and like not gain weight. I was eating pizza all the time. And modeling I was a little bit forced to eat healthier, and I found out that I actually really love it. Like, I love cooking and like making healthier recipes. So my friends would always say to me like, oh, you should study nutrition, when I was kind of like debating what I should do. And I think what held me back at the time was that, like, my relationship with food. I was kind of worried that if I studied nutrition, I would be more obsessed than I already was. And looking back at it now, I'm like, it doesn't really make sense, because once I started studying and like learning exactly what my body needs, it was so good for me. Like, I just fully like understanding all the nutrients, all like how much protein and like healthy fats that our bodies require to work properly. It just completely shifted my mindset. And now I just eat to like fuel myself and like for energy, and I know what these foods are going to do in my body. So I was so surprised like how much it changed my life and my perspective on things. So now it's just my #1 priority. So anything with modeling, I'm like, I just really like push it to the side, and I'm like, I don't really care if I'm not going to fit into this box that like a client wants me to, because I'm feeling so much better, like so much healthier and happier. So
do you think that has to do with like not looking at the numbers and looking at ingredients instead? Because I think like, I love that you had that experience with food, but I do think there's other people who are maybe not wired the same, or don't like understand their bodies as well, who will get obsessed with the numbers if they're doing it in the wrong way. So do you think like looking at ingredients is more helpful?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's very much what like a holistic nutritionist is all about. I think sometimes dietitians can be more like analytical and like, we need this many calories, but it's really, it depends on the person a lot. Like, a lot of people, I think it's not healthy for them to be like tracking calories and macros and then focusing on ingredients and what you should be getting in and making sure you're getting enough. I think this is where our mindset should be. And it can take time.
I'm also the same way. I mean, not to like get into my own life, but I did that for so long. Like, I would be 6 days really strict, and then one day I would just like have to like give in to all these things. And once I stopped looking at numbers and checking off boxes, that's when it changed for me.
I'm so glad you're not doing
that. I know, it was so unhealthy.
It
was so unhealthy.
We've all been there. I think a lot of women struggle with their relationship with food, and this is something I'm so passionate about, because what I've found with my clients is educating them on what they need, and like kind of the downsides too of under eating can really like wake someone up and makes it easier to ignore like the calories or the tracking and just focusing on what you actually need. I think this can just be so life-changing, and I'm not gonna lie, it takes time. Like, it took me a while to get to this point for sure, but I do think removing myself from modeling has helped so much, more than I thought, because there were times where I'm like great, like I have the best relationship with food, and then I realize I'm like, oh, I haven't done a modeling job in a while, and then I go to a modeling job and I'm like, oh, but that's just me, that's not everyone, but I've just kind of realized this about myself, which is interesting.
Okay, so briefly, for anybody who doesn't know the difference between nutrition and holistic nutrition, can you just explain what that is and what you do, and like what specifically you're interested in your practice?
Yeah, for sure. So a holistic nutritionist is kind of a nutritionist who takes into account the whole person. It's much more about like lifestyle, obviously the diet, also like what products someone is putting on their body, like toxins.
So interesting.
Yeah,
I'll get into that later.
We'll get into that. And then also even like mental health, stress levels. They really take into account everything, and then also even health history. So I work with a lot of people with like gut health or hormonal imbalance. So it's kind of finding the root cause and not just like treating the symptoms, but also doing it through nutrition and sometimes therapeutic supplementation.
Wow, it's amazing. I love that approach, because I think so often you can go to the doctor and they'll just like put a band-aid on. They'll just like prescribe you a pill and that's it, you know what I mean? And then for years and years and years, you're just, you know, temporarily fixing the problem.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really frustrating, because a lot of people, like, that's how the doctors are trained though. They're just trained to fix the symptom with the medication, antibiotics, and then you're kind of on your own.
Right.
So where I come in is kind of figuring out why this issue started in the first place, and then healing through supplementation a lot of the time at the start, and then fixing up the diet, and then eventually tapering off the supplements so that the diet has kind of filled that void that there might be. Yeah,
makes sense. Obviously now gut health has become so talked about. It's kind of a hot topic. Do you feel like a lot of people come to you with gut problems? And
gut health is so important. That's always number one. The number one thing that I ask any of my clients is how their gut health is, if they're going number 2 every day. We talk about that a lot, which is a little weird.
I love talking about it, honestly. I feel like we need to talk about it more.
We do.
I think one of the biggest problems, and this is just like my observation from the outside, is that, you know, people could do so much better if they just knew what to do.
Exactly.
And if they just knew themselves better.
Yeah.
Like, I feel so lucky that I know so much about my body, that I know so much about food and like what's healthy and what's not. And I just feel like in this country and in this world, we're just not teaching people enough about themselves.
That's so true. And a lot of people are really out of tune with their bodies. Like, they think they feel fine, but when they talk to me and I'm like, oh, well, how's your sleep? Like, are you waking up in the middle of the night? And they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, how's your gut health? And they're like, oh, I go like once or twice a week. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
that's
like,
not
this is not good. I'm like, we need to work on this like right away. Like, I think you're right, there's not enough education, and doctors are really just treating the symptom, and I think there needs to be someone else there to like say, these are the lifestyle changes that could help your situation or these symptoms that you're feeling.
So when you have a new client, what does that look like? The consultation and then like the initial few weeks of working with them?
So usually when I get a new client, we'll do a full intake. So I'll need like a food diary, probably for like 5 to 7 days, just so I get a really good picture of what the person is eating. And then I also like for them to track like how they're feeling throughout the day, which also is really good for a lot of people, because they kind of realize like, oh, I felt like this after I ate this. Like, people don't pay attention to this at all, which is like really interesting. And then, so we'll do a full intake. I ask about their health history, all the products that they're using, which I know we'll talk about more after. And then all the foods that they're eating, like what quality of food they're buying, and then also their lifestyle, what their stress level is. It just really, like, I take into account everything. And then after that, we have like an initial call, we go over everything. And then I'll kind of make a protocol after that. And a lot of the time it'll be targeted at something, either working on gut health or maybe something with hormones. And we'll do a supplement protocol most of the time. That's kind of a bit of a like therapeutic dosage. It's not forever, so it's usually like 2 to 3 months. I always say clients, they have to work with me for a minimum of 3 months, because it can take time to see results through the dietary changes and also the supplements. It usually takes like 2 to 3 months. But yeah, that's kind of the process. And then now I'm actually studying to do functional testing as well, which is really exciting.
Yeah, so I know that's something that you're really excited about.
I'm so excited about it, just because it speeds up the time, you know? Like, I can tell a lot through symptoms what someone is going through. But if you're able to do like a Dutch hormone test or a stool test, you can know exactly what is going on in the gut. and then really target that. Say there's like some type of infection or like candida, you can really target that bacteria and just get results faster, which is really exciting.
Wow. So in terms of diet, is there anything that people have like misconceptions about, or diets that are, you know, said to be super good but actually, you know, do damage to the body?
For sure. There are so many diets out there. I'm not sure which one you want to touch on.
We're not going to sip the tea, we're going to sip the coffee.
I need tea. But yeah, I think one big one obviously is veganism. So I am not opposed to a vegan diet, but I will say it is very difficult to do it properly. So animal proteins have all the essential amino acids that we need. And plant proteins, a lot of them at least, some of them have the full spectrum, but most of them don't have the full spectrum of essential amino acids. And we need these amino acids to function properly and to have complete proteins. So with plant protein, you can combine like beans, rice, and all these different, like have a variety of plants in your meal that can make complete amino acids when they combine all together. But you need to eat really high amounts, and you need to be very conscious of this to make sure you're getting enough protein. So 100% someone who's vegan needs to be on B12, we know this. So to me, like a diet that you need to supplement for is not always the most sustainable. There are also a lot of anti-nutrients in plant foods, which can inhibit the absorption from the foods. Plant foods are great. I love plant foods. I'm like, plant-based is amazing. Like you want your...
I was just gonna ask you that.
Yeah, exactly. You want your plate to be full of vegetables, full of fiber. Amazing. But I do think, in my experience, animal protein can be kind of essential, especially if you're working on if someone is working on gut healing. It can be really difficult to heal from a digestive issue if you're on a vegan diet.
I can't even digest like a vegan diet properly. My body just doesn't like it. So I can imagine like if you're trying to hit those protein goals, you know, with beans and legumes and trying to like hit those targets, that it can be really hard on the body.
For sure. And everyone is different, and some people do well on plants and they can eat a lot of plant foods, but in my experience it can be quite difficult, and you really need to know what you're doing. And I think a lot of people should know that too before they like jump onto a vegan diet. You really need to educate yourself and make sure that you are getting enough protein.
So interesting. Speaking of jumping on bandwagons, we were talking about this a little bit before we started filming. Couldn't help ourselves. But obviously there's so much information and like misinformation on TikTok and Instagram, social media in general. How do you combat these videos that are misinforming people? And you know, there's so many videos out there on like parasite cleanses, not to like draw attention, like different diets and like quick fixes that people talk about. What do you like have to say about that?
I mean, not all of these trends are necessarily bad on TikTok. Like a lot of these things, I think people are discovering, like for example, that magnesium is amazing at night, which I completely support that. Like honestly, I think everyone should be taking magnesium. There's not really enough in our soil, unfortunately, because our soil has been depleted over time. So I like that one is one I can totally hop on.
Do you have one that you recommend?
So I would recommend magnesium bisglycinate. So there are a bunch of different kinds of magnesium. So this is the one
you gotta be careful with which one you take.
Citrate is gonna like make you go.
Make you go really quick.
Which can be useful sometimes. If things are backed up, then you might want to take that one. But bisglycinate, I like it because it's completely absorbed. It's like the highest absorption of magnesium. There are a few other ones as well. There's a bunch of different types that are good for other things, but that's the one I would generally recommend. But yeah, it's great for sleep, muscle relaxation. But yeah, then there are other trends like the parasite trend on TikTok, which honestly scares me a little because I don't think anyone should be jumping into a parasite cleanse. Number one, I would make sure that you have a parasite that is actively causing those symptoms. And then also I would just work with a practitioner, because there are so many mistakes that you can make. You need to really prepare your body for detoxification, or you're gonna have a lot of die-off symptoms that can be really harmful, and it can kind of move things around. And then also, if you do successfully eradicate the parasite, after, there's a lot of gut healing that needs to happen. It's not just like a quick fix, you know?
You can like eat everything again the next day or something.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you want to make sure you're on the right diet at the same time. You want to make sure your body is fueled before. Like, if someone isn't ready for, like, detoxification like that is very intense and hard on the body. So if I were doing that with a client, I would prepare them for probably a month. And like, make sure everything's working well, their digestion is good, and they're like going regularly before getting into all of that. So yeah, there's just a lot to know, so just be careful out there with what you read on, with what you see on TikTok.
Yeah, it's a good point, because there is a lot of good info out there. It's just like, you have to find the right side of the argument and make sure that you're informed.
For sure. Do your own research and make sure that it's right for you with any supplement too. And you also want to make sure it's quality. The supplement industry is very unregulated.
Oh my god.
So you just want to like make sure.
Yeah,
along with everything, along with like products as well.
Do you think that if you have the right diet, you don't need to be supplementing very much? I know you talked about supplementing clients in the beginning when you're getting started.
That's a good question.
But like, people who take like 10, 12 supplements a day like that, is that a good thing?
Yeah, I think it totally depends on the situation, but no, I don't think you should be able to get enough from your food for sure. But at the same time, nowadays it's quite hard for us to have like a perfect diet.
Right.
So usually what I like to say is if everything is good, or say a client, we heal their gut health, now they're kind of in the maintenance stage, like their diet is looking good, then I might just have some more whole food supplements.
Okay.
So just do like, I love like spirulina. Spirulina is great. Or like greens powder or something like that. Or you can buy whole food supplements that are from like plant sources. Okay. So I would like kind of transition them into that. Because I do think you should be able to like, you don't need supplements for sure. But sometimes if you're healing from a certain issue, it can speed along the process to have the synthetic supplements. But I will say, like, synthetic supplements, they're not real, you know, they're not like a whole food, so your body doesn't always recognize them. So it needs to be in the proper form, first of all, to work properly. And that's why a lot of the time they're at a really high dosage, because you're not absorbing all of it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so now I really want to talk about the products. And this is something that I've personally been really interested in. Yeah. Cleaning products, hair, skin, like nail products. Yeah. And just endocrine disruptors in general.
Yeah.
Hot topic.
It's a good topic. I mean, it's a good topic.
Yeah,
I
think so
topic. Too. Just like bringing awareness and kind of holding these companies accountable. Because if we say to them, like, we don't want these endocrine disruptors in our products, they're gonna have to change it, you know? That's the only way to really make change. But yeah, so the product industry is very unregulated. And when I started learning about this in school, it was honestly like quite depressing because it's very overwhelming. Like, there are a lot of toxins in our products that are just really not good for us. And I was amazed that they're even allowed in our products. I always thought when you see a product on the shelves, I'm like, oh, it must be safe, like it was approved. But I learned that the companies do their own testing. Like, they don't have a third party, like, it doesn't get tested by someone else. Like, they do their own testing and then put it out into the world.
That's crazy.
Which kind of blew my mind.
Yeah.
So it's
well, everything else is regulated. If you want to be a personal trainer, you know, you have to be certified. If you want to be a dietitian, nutritionist, like, you have to be certified. Yeah. But products that we ingest do not have to be. Which is
I mean, they do have to be certified, but it's just the fact that the company itself is doing it. Like, and there's like recalls all the time, you know? And then, so it just like puts it into a little bit of questioning. And you want to really make sure that the products you're buying are safe.
This is another thing that we were kind of talking about before we started filming, and you were telling me how you've started like removing certain things out of your life and switching them out, but you hadn't like fully completely
Yeah,
gotten there. Yeah. I'm in the same boat.
For sure.
It's hard to like do everything right away.
It takes time, and there's a lot of like research that needs to go into it too, to like figure out which, because sometimes even now there are clean products that actually are not clean. Yeah, and there are just kind of, for me, I have certain toxins and certain things that are like hard nose for me, and I want to make sure I really eliminate those. Anything that's an endocrine disruptor was really like, I'm trying to eliminate those completely. So if you don't know, an endocrine disruptor it can actually mimic our hormones, and it can throw off our imbalance. A lot of them are estrogen mimickers, which a lot of people tend to have high estrogen. That's like a common hormonal imbalance. So this is something that I really try to avoid, and it's actually in a lot of products, which is a little scary.
So scary.
But yeah, and it's not only in the holistic space that people are recognizing this. Like there are MDs, fertility doctors, because it's very important for fertility as well, who recognize that there are hormone disruptors. And also in the US, it's, as I'm sure people have heard, it's a lot less regulated in comparison to Europe. Like there are a lot of, I usually avoid actually a lot of the toxins that are banned in Europe that are allowed here, because I'm like, okay, if it's not allowed there, like why should I be putting this in my body?
And that's all like public information.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's actually a great source. It's called ewg.org.
Okay.
It's amazing. It like lists the ingredients, and it'll tell you like what they do, if it's an endocrine disruptor. And then there's another version called Skin Deep. So you can check, I'll like give you the link to everything, but you can check all your products, like all your makeup, all of that.
I always went on Paula's Choice website because they have a whole like library of ingredients, skincare ingredients. Oh. And it'll tell you whether it's good, neutral, or bad.
Oh, I didn't know that they do that.
Yeah, but this is even more interesting, because I think for skin, like now I understand the ingredients, but cleaning products, like the dry shampoo information that's going around, you know what I mean? These are things that I use every day.
For sure.
Endocrine disruptors are in specific ingredients, but also like more found in specific products, or
yeah, it can honestly be like any products. Okay. You just kind of have to check the individual product. But yeah, it can be in like cleaning products, it can be in our makeup. Number one is probably tampons, because you're putting it into your body. And then cotton is a really highly sprayed crop. So it's very important to get like organic, like also like the plastic applicator, like you want it to have like no toxins in that.
So is paper better then, or no applicator?
Paper would probably be better.
Because in Europe, I totally remember this when I was growing up, like in Europe they don't have the applicator for a tampon. They just have the individual ones.
That's probably why.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, which is really, says a lot in a way. So that's a big one. And then also anything that you're putting on your skin. So cream, like you're going to be absorbing that into your bloodstream.
Sunscreen.
Yeah, exactly. Sunscreen's a big one. So anything, so yeah, I would say creams, body wash, which is a hard one. Makeup, you're putting it on your face, it's getting absorbed. That's a big one. And then also minimizing plastic. So plastic water bottles, especially any plastic that's heated, like really try and avoid that. Those ones usually do have endocrine disruptors as well.
I got rid of all of my plastic.
That's great. Good job.
Yeah, you know, the containers, everything's glass now, so
that's amazing.
So much better.
So much better. Yeah. And like also if you're putting it in the microwave, or like, I mean, if you have a microwave or like warming it up, then
try not to use the microwave either.
Yeah, try not to.
Yeah. Warm it up in the pan or in the oven.
I don't have one currently. My boyfriend wants one, but I'm like, I kind of like it. It forces me to not use it. It can be convenient though, I will say.
The only downside to this is obviously a cost associated, and I don't think that this is like something to skimp over, because it's no coincidence that these products are more expensive. And it is like a privilege to be able to buy these things, to buy clean makeup, to buy clean skincare, buy clean products.
Yeah, this is so important to talk about for sure.
Yeah, how do you feel about homemade like cleaning products and like homemade versions of certain things?
That's a great idea. Like vinegar, like baking soda, those are great cleaning products. 100%. Like coconut oil has so many great uses as well. 100%. I don't honestly have like that many natural homemade products that I could maybe recommend. I want to get more into that.
Me too.
because that's a great way to save time in our life. I will say it's like, it's been, so I started studying nutrition about 2 years ago, and I since then have been overhauling basically all my products, and I am trying to find like cost-effective options as well, because it is quite pricey for the cleaner products. One company I usually recommend to clients right away is the Honest Company.
Oh yeah, nice.
Which is just like easy, you know. I wouldn't say it's like perfect for sure, but it's like kind of a safe option.
Yeah, and great place to start.
Yeah, kind of, and it's still like more expensive, but it's like a little more doable, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, that's usually where I start. But yeah, I don't really have any natural.
That's okay. We're gonna explore together and figure it out. Thank you for everything that you've shared with us today. I feel like this was so informative for me as well.
Oh, amazing.
Do you have like a final piece of advice or a final tip for anybody?
Yeah, maybe like on the topic of the endocrine disruptors and the clean products, just take it day by day, and you don't need to throw out all your products. Like even me, like it's been a process. Over 2 years I've been like switching stuff out, and it can be hard to like find a really good natural product that you like. So just don't be too hard on yourself, and just do what you can to reduce your toxic load or exposure, and then just like take it day by day.
I love that. I feel like that goes with everything, because if you don't, then it just becomes overwhelming.
That's so true.
You end up delaying the process anyway.
Yeah, so. And then you don't want to be like scared of everything as well.
That's true. Yeah, we still have to enjoy life.
Just doing the best you can, I think is great.
So true. Thank you so much. This was amazing. I'm so happy we were able to do this.
Thanks for having me. This was so fun.
So fun. I'm gonna link all of Laura's socials, and also leave a little note on how you can like get in touch with her in case you want to work with her. Maybe I'll get some of your favorite like supplement recommendations, or
I'll link like the EWG for you.
EWG. I'm gonna look into that tonight. I'm gonna go down a hole.
Oh yeah, you are.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Don't forget to follow Laura. Subscribe to my channel if you are new and you haven't already. And we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks. Bye.